It was the 7th of February 2020, and President Cyril Ramaphosa flew from South Africa to Ethiopia to attend the 33rd African Union Summit of Heads of States in Addis Ababa, where he was inaugurated into his new role as the 18th chairperson of the African Union on the 10th of February 2020. On the very same day that he assumed his role as the chair of the continental body, he received a disturbing call from the manager of his Phala-Phala game farm, Hendrik von Villig, informing him about the robbery that took place on the farm the previous night, where thieves broke in and stole $580,000 in US dollars that was stored on the couch in his house. After getting off the call with the farm manager, President Ramaphosa then invited the head of Presidential Protection Unit, Major General Wale Root, into his hotel room and instructed him to investigate the matter and recover this money. And this story was successfully kept under wraps for more than 2 years, until the 1st of June 2022, when Fraser revealed it to the public and opened a case against President Ramaphosa for failing to report the crime and allegedly violating the PRICA Act. Following that, the buzzword on every news channel was
Phala-Phala Farm Burglary,
Phala-Phala Farm Saga,
Phala-Phala Farm,
Phala-Phala Saga,
Phala-Phala Matter, Phala-Phala Panel Report, Phala-Phala Farm Saga, Phala-Phala Farm Theft, Phala-Phala Report, Phala-Phala Report,
Phala-Phala Farm Robbery,
Phala-Phala Saga,
Phala-Phala Farm Saga,
Phala-Phala Matter,
Phala-Phala Farm,
Phala-Phala,
okay, but hold on. Where did this money come from in the first place? Who is Fraser, and how did he know about the burglary if it was kept under wraps? Well, that's $1 million question, pun intended. But to answer it, let's put things into context and dive in a bit. But before we get into that, please subscribe, like or dislike this video, and leave a comment at the end. It helps this channel to grow and motivates me to research and release more informative videos like this one. In the next video that I'm currently working on, I'm taking a deep dive into Eskom and the causes of load shedding, and dispelling all the lies and misinformation out there. So please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss it when I upload it in the next few weeks. Now back to Phala-Phala. So, President Ramaphosa's security was compromised from the beginning of his tenure as the president of the country. First, they hacked into his CR17 mail server and leaked confidential emails to the media houses like News24 and the Public Protector, which was Busim Khwebane at the time. These emails were mostly about the CR17 funds and resulted in public calls for the CR17 campaign bank statements to be made public. But then President Ramaphosa applied for a court order to seal them. Then they broke into his house undetected and stole his money, which is the main topic of this video. But more on that later on. So interestingly enough, in all these incidents, there's someone whose name always finds an indirect way to come up. Yeah, you guessed right. That someone's name is Arthur Joseph Peter Fraser. He's a real spook, that one. Arthur Fraser is a former spy boss. He was born and raised in Cape Town and joined the ANC student politics before he went into exile to study film and video production in England. He returned to South Africa in 1995 and was appointed as an investigator to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, TRC, which saw him working very closely with the National Intelligence Agency, NIA, South Africa's then equivalent of CIA. After the TRC concluded its business, he returned back to Cape Town and was appointed as provincial head of the NIA in the Western Cape province from 1998 to 2004. In 2005, he was transferred to the Department of Home Affairs and served as a Deputy Director General before being transferred back to the NIA as the National Deputy Director General, and he became Thabo Mbeki's man, as Mbeki was very close to his sister. In 2006, a year after Mbeki removed Zuma as his deputy president following the arms deal corruption charges, a top secret intelligence report titled The Browse Mole was leaked to the public, and the report asserted that Zuma's campaign to replace Mbeki as president of the ANC in South Africa was financed by foreign organizations and other African presidents. So Arthur Fraser, is a trusted ally of Thabo Mbeki, was tasked with investigating and verifying these claims. The idea was that Arthur Fraser would tap Zuma and his allies' phones and provide the evidence to the then head of NPA, Bulelani Ngcuka, and the head of Scorpion, Leonard McCarthy, to see if there is any truth to these claims in order to prosecute Zuma. Indeed, Fraser backed Zuma and his friends, but in order for him to be safe in case there was a political shift after the Polokwane conference, which was due that following year in 2007, he decided to also turn around and back Mbeki's allies, Bulelani Ngcuka and Leonard McCarthy as well. But as agreed, Fraser sent the evidence he collected on Zuma to Ngcuka and McCarthy. But upon noticing that indeed there was a political shift and Zuma would emerge victorious in Polokwane, Fraser felt the need to ingratiate himself with Zuma in case he really wins and becomes the new president. So he played both sides and took the spy tapes he collected from the conversation between Bulelani Ngcuka and Leonard McCarthy and sent them to Zuma's lawyers. In the tapes, Ngcuka and McCarthy could be heard discussing the Polokwane conference proceedings and when would it be the right time to arrest and prosecute Zuma. McCarthy jokingly said he feels like going to Polokwane and arresting him there, and Bulelani Ngcuka telling McCarthy not to arrest him that weekend, which was the weekend of the 52nd ANC elective conference in Polokwane 2007. As Zuma would say, they are conspiring against him. The two felt disappointed when Zuma won, and Ngcuka could be heard saying it's a sad day for our country. Zuma was facing corruption charges related to the arms deal at the time, and those corruption charges were dropped based on those spy tapes, as his lawyers argued that the charges were politically motivated, and Zuma's path to become the president of South Africa was cleared. He won in Polokwane and became the ANC president, and Mbeki was removed as South Africa's president 8 months later, replaced by Kgalema Motlanthe as interim president. In 2009, the ANC won elections and Zuma became the president of South Africa, and again in 2014. In 2016, he finally showed his gratitude to Fraser and appointed him as the head of National Intelligence Agency, now State Security Agency. That's when Arthur Fraser became the spy boss and would remain loyal to Zuma and allow nothing to stop him from proving his loyalty to him, not even law. So when Arthur Fraser was at the helm of the State Security Agency, Busi Mkhwebane was his subordinate at some point. They continued having a close working relationship even when she became the public protector. Before Arthur Fraser was removed from the SSA by Ramaphosa for revoking Inspector General of Intelligence Sitloma Marudinto's top secret security clearance, which would have prevented the latter from effectively performing his oversight duties. After Jacob Zuma became the state president in 2009, Arthur Fraser was in the spotlight and attracted a lot of attention to himself because of the spy tape saga. So he decided to lay low a bit and went to the private sector and tendering. He started his own company called the Research and Risk Managers, which offered a range of services related to the risk assessment and security, and got a tendering contract with Prasa. He then hired a cybersecurity specialist by the name of Alessio Papadopoulou as a cybersecurity manager for the company. The two worked closely together and became friends. Arthur Fraser then introduced Alessio to another close friend of his, Wally Rood, with whom they both come from the Western Cape and worked together during the underground days of the ANC in the late 80s, and the three of them became friends. Wally Rood was an MK veteran and former head of security at the National Prosecuting Authority, was also running his own security company at the time, and got a contract with FIFA to provide security services during the 2010 World Cup. So fast forward to 2017, President Ramaphosa was Deputy President of South Africa and was campaigning to be elected as the next president of the ANC in a conference that was scheduled for December of that same year at Nasrec. President Ramaphosa's campaign was known as CR17, short for Cyril Ramaphosa 2017, and inspired by Cristiano Ronaldo's CR7 brand. The CR17 campaign manager was a man named Bejani Chauke. Remember that name. He wanted the security for the campaigners' protection and crowd control. So as it is the norm in the ANC, whenever they need security services, they look among their own MK veterans. Likewise, they hired Wally Rood's security company and he became the head of security for the CR17 campaign. They also asked him to get someone who could set up a secured communication channel for the campaign leaders. So he poached Alessio from Fraser's company and hired him as a cybersecurity consultant for the CR17 campaign to establish this secured communication channel for them. Alessio quickly registered a company called Mediscore Trading in March 2017. He then registered the domain called alessio.online, which he used to set up and manage this dedicated mail server for the CR17 campaign communication, and was paid 4.8 million rands for his services. Now all the secret emails pertaining to the CR17 campaign were on that server. So going to the 2017 ANC conference, these three friends were divided, as Alessio and Wally Rood were team CR17 and Fraser was team NTZ, and there are allegations of SSA/fund money being used for the NTZ campaign, just as there are counter allegations of CR17 having taken money from wrong people as well. Now fast forward to the Nasrec conference in 2017, Ramaphosa won and became the president of the ANC, and 2 months later became the president of South Africa. Then Wally Rood, the former CR17 campaign head of security, was appointed as the head of Presidential Protection Unit, and Alessio, the former cybersecurity consultant for the CR17 campaign, also joined the PPU and was responsible for park sweep and cybersecurity. Bejani Chauke, the former CR17 campaign manager, became President Ramaphosa's political advisor. One of the first decisions President Ramaphosa took after becoming the president of the country was to remove Arthur Fraser as Director General of State Security Agency for revoking the top secret security clearance for Sitloma Marudinto to the Inspector General of Intelligence, which would have prevented him from effectively performing his oversight duties. President Ramaphosa then appointed Fraser to the new role of National Commissioner of Correctional Services, a move that President Ramaphosa would later regret, as Fraser used this position to grant Jacob Zuma a medical parole, despite the medical parole appeal board recommending against it. Now most people in President Ramaphosa's inner circle were also jostling for proximity to him and to become his right-hand man. So petty conflicts within the CR17 camp started. One such conflict was between Wale Road and Alessio. According to News 24, the conflict and trust deficit between the two was so bad that it resulted to Alessio allegedly having to strip down in Wale Road's office to prove that he was not wearing a listening device. So these two other Fraser men had become two bulls in one kraal, and President Ramaphosa had to choose one between the two of them. So in late 2018, Alessio was removed from the presidency security team, and Wale Road was then the only man in charge and the only right-hand man of the president in security matters. But Alessio was not left out in the cold though. To appease him after his release, in June 2019, Fikile Mbalula's Department of Transport gave him a fixed-term contract to provide security at Prasa. That is when the contracts of Carl Nihas and Kebima Patso's security companies were terminated. Remember when Carl Nihas and Fikile Mbalula were on each other's throat on Twitter? This is what it was all about. And Omkal became Ramaphosa's biggest political detractor ever since then, up until Nasrec. But problems wouldn't stop there for the CR17 faction. 2 years later after Nasrec, in 2019, their mail server which Alessio had set up for all the CR17 campaign communication was hacked into, and emails were leaked to media houses and public protector. The CR17 faction furiously asked Alessio why the server was still live long after the campaign had ended, and they accused him of leaking them. Now I need to confess here, it is not clear whether the fallout between him and Wale Road happened before or after the leakage of these emails, or whether it is what fueled the dispute between the two of them. Some say it happened before, and it's what resulted in the fallout. Some say it happened after, and Alessio leaked the email to avenge himself. Nah, Akitsi, moving right along. But either way, he was accused of leaking them and giving them to Fraser, and Fraser gave them to Busi Mkhwebane, and she ended up using these leaked emails as a body of evidence for her CR17 and Busasa report to implicate President Ramaphosa. Mkhwebane also made the finding that CR17 campaign was used to launder money, but the Pretoria High Court judgment set aside the report as the court ruled that Busi Mkhwebane's findings were irrational and that she did not have evidence of money laundering. And also the fact that the emails were ill-gotten meant that they were inadmissible and rendered the report invalid. Now let's finally go to Phala-Phala, shall we? So President Ramaphosa, through his family Chibase Trust, owns this wildlife farm called Phala-Phala Wildlife Game Farm, which is the operating entity of Ntabanyoni Estates, a close corporation in which President Ramaphosa is the sole member, according to the Section 89 panel report. This Phala-Phala Game Farm is situated in the province of Limpopo, in the Phala-Phala municipality. On this farm, they breed and sell wildlife animals, such as the buffaloes, the impalas, and the Ankole cattle. And this farm business is split into two departments. You have a farm, which is where all these animals are running around, bred, hunted, sold, or auctioned. Then somewhere on the farm you have a lodge, which is where people book their stay for holidays, and the private residence for the president and his family is also somewhere there. So there are two different managers here. The lodge was managed by Sylvester Ndlovu, and the farm was managed by Hendrik von Villig. They sometimes sell or auction these animals for huge sums of money. Case in point, way before this robbery. In 2011, President Ramaphosa was once criticized for spending plus minus 18 million on a buffalo, and got himself his nickname, the Buffalo. So when he became deputy president of the country in 2014, he was supposed to divest all his businesses, including this farm. But I guess he loved the farm so much as he divested everything except for it. He continued running this farm while he was deputy president and when he became president of the country. So the farm is said to have local and foreign customers. Some customers come to the farm to buy animals while others come for hunting, and they pay by cash or by money transfers. So according to President Ramaphosa, one Mr. Mustafa Mohammed Ibrahim Hazim, a citizen of Sudan who is married to a South African woman from KZN, is one such foreign customer. He and his wife visited South Africa for the December holidays in 2019, and while here, he also went to the Phala-Phala farm to view buffaloes that were for sale. Sylvester Ndlovu, the lodge manager, showed Mr. Hazim the buffaloes in Camp 6, and Hazim identified 20 buffaloes that he wanted to buy, and then made a payment of $580,000 in US dollars to Mr. Ndlovu in cash. An arrangement was also made to get these buffaloes shipped to Sudan, but the timelines agreed on are not clear in any of the publications to date, and 3 years later since the payment was made, these 20 buffaloes are still on the farm, and they blame the failure to transport them to Sudan on COVID regulations and the lockdown, even though this transaction happened 3 months before the outbreak of coronavirus and lockdown in South Africa on the 5th of March 2020. And this money and buffaloes would remain on the farm for 45 days and seemingly not declared to SARS and the Reserve Bank as required by the law. And after the story broke, Mr. Mustafa had an interview with the Sky News and told them that because of the controversy, he doesn't want to continue with the transaction anymore and wanted his money back instead. So because this business transaction was related to the farm side of the business, Hendrik von Villig was supposed to be the one receiving the payment, but he was already away for December holidays. Therefore, the lodge manager Sylvester Ndlovu received it in his stead. But Sylvester Ndlovu was also going on leave for his December holidays as well, and he felt the money would not be safe if left in the safe during this period, because many of the workers know where the safe is. So he then took it out from the safe and stashed it inside the couch in a room that is not often accessed by the staff in the president's private residence. They both returned from leave in January 2020, and the money remained on that couch until that fateful night of the 9th of February 2020, when the thieves broke into the president's house and helped themselves to it. But that is President Ramaphosa's side of the story of where this money came from. According to Arthur Fraser, this is how the money got there. Open quote, Mr. Chauke is said to have concealed an undisclosed amount of US dollars in one of his couches at his personal residence in Hyde Park, Johannesburg. And with the assistance of Major General Rood, they transferred the couch to the president's residence at Phala-Phala with the full knowledge and acquiescence of the president. An analysis of the mobile telephone and tower networks of both Mr. Chauke and Major Rood's mobile telephones and vehicle tracking devices would shed some light here on. This is the money that was stolen from the president's Phala-Phala farm on the 9th of February 2020, and not any money derived from the sale of animals or hunting of the game, as glibly articulated by the president on the 5th of June 2022 in his address to the closing of the African National Congress of Limpopo Conference, close quote. However, Chauke responded and dismissed the claims by Fraser. He started off by saying, open quote, I want to start off and state that I personally know Mr. Joseph Peter Fraser, especially in his capacity as the erstwhile head of intelligence of Republic of South Africa and also as head of correctional services of South Africa. And I know him to be very intelligent and experienced operator in the intelligence sector, and that the government has invested a lot in him to build and curate his skills. And I am therefore highly suspicious that the letter originated from him, as it is riddled with untruthful allegations that a specialist like him would not have made. I specifically deny that I have ever, with or without the help of Mr. Major General Wale Rood, put any money into any form of a couch or other furniture and thereafter moved it anywhere. I am of the opinion that a well-orchestrated campaign of disinformation is currently being directed against the president to influence the upcoming ANC conference in December this year. This is an old apartheid regime tactic that is being utilized to destabilize the ANC. Close quote. As mentioned at the beginning of this video, President Ramaphosa was in Ethiopia when this robbery happened, and his farm manager Von Villig called him and told him about it. President Ramaphosa then reported this robbery to the head of Presidential Protection Unit, Major General Wale Rood, and asked him to investigate this matter and find these thieves. This is what the president said in his submission to the panel. Open quote. On the 10th of February 2020, the day after the theft, I was advised by Mr. Von Villig that there was a security breach at Phala-Phala Farm. At the time, I was in Addis Ababa to chair the African Union Assembly Summit meeting. Mr. Von Villig sent the footage to me from the CCTV cameras situated outside my private residence at Phala-Phala, which shows intruders who were seeking to enter my private residence. I then arranged for Major General Rood, the head of Presidential Protection Unit Service, to visit me in my room at our hotel in Addis Ababa. At our meeting, I informed Major General Rood that I had received information that there had been a breach of security at Phala-Phala and requested him to attend to the matter and report back to me. Close quote. So after that meeting with President Ramaphosa, Major General Wale Rood made a phone call to South Africa and set up an investigating team that included himself, Sergeant Rekoto, and Trevor Fredericks. Their investigation started by viewing CCTV days before the robbery, and they noticed that a domestic worker who is Namibian accessed the room and discovered the money when she was cleaning, and a few days later the break-in took place. So the first person they took in for questioning was her, and she lived in Cyferskel, a small township a few kilometers away from Phala-Phala, which is where the Phala-Phala farm is located. There are also allegations that they kidnapped and tortured her, but this has not been proven. She, however, confessed that when she returned back to work the following year in 2020, she discovered this money on the couch while she was cleaning and told her Namibian boyfriend, who connected her to another Namibian man who was based in Cape Town, named David Emanuela. Emanuela then traveled from Cape Town to Phala-Phala, which is where the Phala-Phala farm is situated. In a leaked audio, he says he didn't believe the domestic worker at first, so he asked her to bring a sample as proof that this money is real, and she came back with a few US dollar banknotes, and they confirmed that it is real. Then on the 9th of February 2020, Emanuela and other friends, namely Petros Africana and Eric Shikongo, broke into the president's house in Phala-Phala and stole this 580,000 US dollars successfully. Then Emanuela, the domestic worker, and her boyfriend split the cash, and Emanuela went back to Cape Town. When President Ramaphosa and his head of Presidential Protection Unit, Major General Wale Rood, returned from Ethiopia, they went straight to Cape Town to attend the cabinet meeting and to prepare for the State of the Nation address, which was due to be delivered on the 14th of February 2020. The investigating team also traveled from Gauteng to Cape Town, to meet with Wale Root and search for this David Emanuela. Now Wale Root, being from Cape Town himself, used his connections in Cape Town and managed to track him down and found his whereabouts within few days. After catching wind that the cops were closing in on him, he quickly ran to Namibia and reportedly bribed his way into the country. But now that he was in another country, the situation was out of Major General Wale Root's hand, as he didn't have any influence or connections in Namibia. So he reported this to President Ramaphosa. President Ramaphosa then picked up a phone and called his Namibian counterpart, President Hage Geingob, and asked him to help find Emanuela. Then President Geingob instructed some of his high-ranking police officials to find him. Emanuela was captured, and General Wale Root and his team went to Namibia to fetch him and brought him back to South Africa. And some of the remaining money was also recovered from him as well. It is alleged that Emanuela and the domestic worker were then paid 150,000 each from this money to buy their silence and not to tell anyone about this incident. And indeed, this was successfully kept a secret for more than 2 years. No one knew anything about this until the 1st of June 2022. 2 years, 6 months after the robbery took place, and exactly 6 months before the 55th ANC elective conference in Nasrec. At that point, Ramaphosa didn't have an opponent to contest him for the position of president. It looked like he was running the race alone. Then on the 1st of June, Arthur Fraser dropped this Phala-Phala bombshell and took it upon himself to open a case against Ramaphosa for failure to report a crime, defeating the ends of justice, and breach of the Prevention of Organized Crime Act and the Prevention of Corruption Activities Act of 2004. Then after that, the story was a permanent headline, as all we could hear on the news was
Phala-Phala Farm Burglary,
Phala-Phala Farm Saga,
Phala-Phala Farm,
Phala-Phala Saga,
Phala-Phala Matter,
Phala-Phala Panel Report, Phala-Phala Farm Saga, Phala-Phala Farm Theft,
Phala-Phala Report,
Phala-Phala,
Phala-Phala Report,
Phala-Phala Farm Robbery, Phala-Phala Farm,
Phala-Phala Saga,
Phala-Phala Farm Saga,
Phala-Phala Matter, Phala-Phala Farm,
Phala-Phala,
Phala-Phala, Phala-Phala, Phala-Phala, Phala-Phala, Phala-Phala.
But to this day, no one knows how exactly Arthur Fraser found out about this incident, as it was kept a secret from the public. But two theories seek to answer this question. One is that since Fraser was friends with Major General Wale Root, the latter probably told Fraser in confidence, or Arthur Fraser bugged him like he probably bugged Alessio as well to access the mail server to get some debt he could use against President Ramaphosa to unseat him before the conference and give advantage to someone close and loyal to Zuma to emerge uncontested. It is also worth noting that Arthur Fraser opened this criminal case against President Ramaphosa 2 weeks before the release of the final installment of the Zondo Commission report, which was expected to deal with the corruption at the State Security Agency during Arthur Fraser's time as Director General, and a few weeks before Busi Mkhwebane's pending suspension came to effect. After this, Busi Mkhwebane immediately sent Ramaphosa 30 questions regarding the Phala-Phala robbery, and Ramaphosa suspended her a few days after. His detractors accused him of suspending her because of the questions. They chose to ignore the fact that her suspension was already pending before Arthur Fraser made this issue public. Ramaphosa's political detractors started calling for him to resign immediately. The usual suspects like Zungula, who had already tabled 2 motions of no confidence against Ramaphosa in 4 years, applied for Section 89 to be instituted so that the impeachment process could start. He also applied for the motion of no confidence on the president. By the way, Zungula is the leader of the African Transformation Movement, ATM, a political party with 2 seats in parliament, which Mzwandile Manyi, who is the spokesperson of Jacob Zuma's foundation, is also a prominent member of. So the Section 89 panel was established and was chaired by former Judge Sandile Ngcobo and consisting of Advocate Mahlape Silo, who is also Esma Khashule's advocate. Makhashule is a well-known political opponent of Cyril Ramaphosa and Jacob Zuma's loyalist. The report was released on the 30th of November 2022, and Ramaphosa's supporters watered it down by poking holes in it and claiming that it was flawed. In Parliament, Ronald Lamula argued that the report had set the bar too low to unseat the president. President Ramaphosa then took the report on judicial review, and the parliament voted against it. Therefore, Ramaphosa survived the possible impeachment and went to the ANC conference that started on the 16th of December in Nasrec and got re-elected as the president of the ANC. In March 2023, the Constitutional Court of South Africa dismissed President Ramaphosa's application to challenge the Section 89 Phala-Phala report. Following this ruling, the opposition parties led by the Democratic Alliance tabled a motion to establish an ad hoc committee to investigate the Phala-Phala Farm Robbery, but the ANC again used this majority in parliament and voted against it. This prompted the former president Thabo Mbeki to write a public letter addressed to Deputy President Paul Mashatile and criticize the ANC for this move and other things. I thought we could end this story here, but there's more. According to a News 24 investigation, Sylvester Ndlovu, who was a Phala-Phala Lodge manager, has left the farm and is now working for Phekwa Lodge, somewhere not far from the Phala-Phala farm. And this Phekwa Lodge is co-owned by a lady named Noluthando Moleketi Williams. Noluthando is the daughter of Jabu Moleketi, a former deputy minister of finance, and Noluthando's mother is Geraldine Moleketi. Both her parents served in Mbeki's cabinet and resigned when he was recalled in 2008. Noluthando's mother Geraldine is now a board chairperson of the Thabo Mbeki Foundation. And here's something interesting. Geraldine is actually not just Geraldine Moleketi. She's using a double barrel surname. Her full name is Geraldine Fraser Moleketi. Fraser is her maiden surname, and she is Arthur Fraser's sister. This is why Malema thought Fraser was working with Mbeki.
And therefore they are asking themselves, whose agenda is Fraser driving? The answer is, Fraser is with President Mbeki in the unseating of President Ramaphosa, because President Mbeki says he's still disgruntled with finishing the term. What do you call it, Floyd? The Mahabani, led the ANC, left before and came back to lead the ANC again. Mbeki is longing for Mahabani situation again. And therefore, there is an allegation that Fraser is actually working with Mbeki.
Mbeki dismissed those allegations as a scuttlebutt, but long story short, Noluthando is Arthur Fraser's niece. So Sylvester Ndlovu, the former Phala-Phala Lodge manager who was central in this whole scandal, now works for Arthur Fraser's niece. What a coincidence, right? Such a small world. All I can say is South Africa is a movie. Now, if you watch this video until here, I assume you enjoyed it and see value in it. I'll make more essay videos like this one. So please subscribe, like or dislike this video, and leave a comment at the end. It helps this channel to grow and motivates me to research and release more informative videos like this one. In the next video that I'm currently working on, I'm taking a deep dive into Eskom and the causes of load shedding, and dispelling all the lies and misinformation out there. So please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss it when I upload it in the next few weeks.
Well, I think South Africa is a movie. We live in a drama. It's a series. Every day you will be shocked by something new. We have even forgotten what shocked us 2 weeks ago. You know, every day, next week we would have forgotten about Kagiso and all this, because there will be something new.